My name is Catherine Adolph. I've been asked to facilitate the interviews of New Bern candidates running for aldermen in our great city for the 2022 municipal elections. Three of the aldermanic wards in New Bern are contested races. They are wards 1, 2, and 6. The other three wards, 3, 4, and 5, are uncontested. This morning we have Bob Brinson and Travis Oakley.
Hello.
These are two, say hi to everybody. These are the candidates running in the 6th ward of New Bern, and both candidates are here with us today. I would like to thank each of you who are running. Campaigns take money and dedication to serving the citizens. Being a public service in an elected position is not easy, but fundamental to the smooth operation of our democracy. Again, thank you both for running. And with that, let's proceed. I will ask the same question to each candidate. We'll have their responses, and we will rotate between the candidates as the questions proceed. There will be a time limit to each question, so I would ask each of you to respect the time restraints. Wendy Card will keep us on track with time. So let's get started this morning. The first question, and we will have Mr. Brinson, I guess, start. You have 3 minutes just to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the citizens of the 6th Ward as their alderman.
All right. Well, my name is Bob Brenson. I'm a New Bern native. I grew up here in Bryce's Creek, graduated New Bern High, and then went to West Point, graduated from there, and did 28 years in the military. And everywhere I went, I basically compared it back to New Bern. So when it came time to transition back out of the military, it was a pretty easy decision just to come back home because I love it here. There's no place in the world like it. And my whole time that I was living in the military, I served in different communities. I've been a PTA president. I've been a parish president. I've been the elder in my church. And so coming back to New Bern, I continued to serve. I actually was in Northern Virginia at a duty station, my last duty station during Florence. I came down the weekend, helped to muck out a basement and a garage, ended up going back to work, back to my duty station. And then when I got back down here, I ended up being a volunteer for the Craven County Disaster Recovery Alliance, helping folks move in and out of their places, putting more tarps on roofs when hurricanes came around. And then got involved in veterans organizations, American Legion, VFW. I'm on to County Level Prevention Council. So really what I see being an alderman is a neighbor serving neighbors. And so really for me, this is a continuation of service to the community. I've had neighbors and I've had friends that have asked me to run. And so that is why I'm running. I want to continue my service both to the community and the city of New Bern. And I'm looking for votes and looking to get elected.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Oakley. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the citizens of the 6th Ward in New Bern.
Sure. First of all, hey, I just want to tell Bob thank you for his service. My wife and I are both also retired veterans. We served 20 years in the Marine Corps. And, I got ready to retire out of Cherry Point. And my wife asked me, right before retirement, hey, where do you want to settle? And I said, I think we're home. I had never really been stationed on the East Coast until the last little bit of my career. And when we ended up in New Bern, the city really embraced us. We met some wonderful friends. Ended up joining Trinity United Methodist Church, where we still worship at. And I got involved with my neighborhood. I live in a great neighborhood. We live in the Bell Oaks community. kind of right around the corner from Bob. He's in Cypress Shore. So I got involved, and I ended up being the president of our HOA for our neighborhood, and started getting involved with different parts of the community. I'm also the vice chair on the Planning and Zoning Board currently for the city of New Bern. And, you know, I always tell people I'm the biggest advocate for this town. I grew up on the West Coast originally. And, you know, when I tell my friends, you know, that I live in this, you know, sleepy, charming southern town here, you know, in between two rivers, they think I live in like a fairy tale until they come out here, and they come out here to visit, and they're amazed, and now they know why I love the city so much. So for me, literally one day I was in the backyard, and you know, I was, you know, messing around, cutting some bushes, and just doing some yard work, and you know, it just kind of came to me like, what a great way for me to continue my involvement. You know, I just decided to run for alderman. So I went in and asked my wife, you know, her permission, and you know, because you got to ask that. And she said, listen, we've been married for 24 years. You're going to do it anyway. So I might as well, you know, back your decision, which she has. You know, I love this place. I actually talked my parents into retiring and moving out here from the West Coast. They live in Greenbrier. So this is home for me. And, you know, I'm looking just to provide some veteran leadership to the current, you know, to the new board as they get sworn in, and the new mayor, you know, regardless of whoever it may be. And I want to serve. I want to fix things. There's a, you know, city of New Bern's over 300 years old. So we know that there's some things that need to be taken care of. And I'm just looking forward to providing a little leadership and some common sense approach to fix some of our unique challenges in the city.
Thank you, Travis. Can I just say something real quick? There's some kind of crackling noise. I don't know if it's somebody's holding something, or I don't know if you all hear that.
I heard it. I thought somebody was typing.
No.
Okay.
Well, we've got some background music going during the interview.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I just thought maybe somebody was typing. I'm hands free. I've got my hands here. So.
Okay, I'm gonna test the mics right now. I'm gonna click on mute to see who's. Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
It's still there, so it's not Travis. I don't hear it. Do y'all hear it?
I think it's gone.
Oh. It's Bob, you got something in your car?
No, I'm not connected to the car, so I'm purely on the phone.
Huh. Okay. Because it's kind of the best. Is there any way you can leave the room and come back in? Possibly.
Yeah, let me try that.
Bob.
Yeah.
Because we don't want this to be a major distraction throughout the whole time.
All right. I'll leave and come back.
Okay. In the meantime, how we doing on this? Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday, New Bern.
Yeah.
Out. Hooray.
And if y'all have any kind of questions, if you're watching this and you have questions, perhaps they may not get answered today, but we will send them to the candidates for them to respond to you later. So please feel free to put those comments, or questions. And Bob should be popping right back in here, hopefully soon.
The magic of technology.
Yeah. Well, so
Here we are.
Here we are. And early voting's already starting. People
Yes, ma'am.
go to the polls at the early voting locations in Craven County. I believe there are, 4 of them? 4 early voting?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, obviously my primary focus, obviously is 406 Craven, which is, our local
Right.
one. They've got one in Havelock, one in Cove City, and I can't remember where the other one is off the top of my head. Vanceboro. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, I was just, matter of fact, I joked around when we started that I said, "Hey, Bob, long time no see," because we were literally both just down there. So I had to come home for a little bit. So, but I had just saw, Bob and I had just seen each other down there. So,
Yeah. Are a lot of people at the polls, or?
It's been a little slow this morning. The nice thing is, there's Bob. So
I can still hear it.
Well, we'll just go on with it.
yeah,
Right?
it's just
Okay, that's not too distracting.
It is what it is.
Bob, welcome back. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I'm going to leave the room.
Okay.
all right. See you, Wendy.
Bye-bye. So we're going to go to our second question, and we'll start with Mr. Oakley on the second question,
Okay.
which is, what is the most important role of any alderman? What's the most important role?
Most important role for any alderman is to ensure that you take care of your constituents, not just in your ward, but for all the people in the city. And, I think along this journey, I've realized that, in talking to people, everybody just wants to be heard and they want to be acknowledged and they want their concerns addressed, right? Because that's a basic human need. So for me, I think the most important thing as an alderman is to ensure that you are listening, that you take the time to hear people, you take the time to look at their concerns, and then you try to address those concerns the best you can, whether it's something that you can, take care of as a singular alderman, or if it's something, a bigger need where you're going to need to consult your fellow aldermen and the mayor. I think it's important to restore the fact that people have faith in their city government. The current board, they do some things really well and some things, not so well. And, it's easy to armchair quarterback because we're not doing it yet. But I will tell you that, and I'm sure Bob will probably agree, just people want to know that you have their best interests in mind. And so for me, staying focused and staying true to the reason why I decided to run is to take care of people. Everybody, we're all neighbors here. We're all New Bernians. So for me, that's the biggest thing, is to make sure that I listen intently, that I get back to them in a timely manner. And I try to find a solution to the problems. Now, of course, it's unrealistic to expect that you're going to be able to satisfy 100% of the people 100% of the time. But if you can come up with some kind of, compromise and you can support the majority of the people, I think it's a win for everybody. So that's my focus.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Brinson. And I forgot to say 2 minutes. What's the most important role of any alderman?
And that's, I'd like to say there's actually two very important roles as alderman. Number one, you are, in this case, Ward 6's representative to the board. The Board of Aldermen sets policy, sets direction, sets the strategic vision for the city of New Bern. And so you're there to represent the will of your ward as far as they see what's going on with the city of New Bern. So that, to me, is one. But just with that, just like Travis was talking about, the second one is you are a public servant. You are there to serve the people. And so you're also helping them navigate the city bureaucracy and the things that are going wrong in the ward in order to get the city to work better for that individual citizen and, individual concerns. So those are the two things. It's you're representing your ward in policy decisions, and then you're making things better for individual neighbors and individual citizens, just like Travis indicated.
Thank you. Third question, and we'll start with Mr. Brinson. What are the top 3 issues of importance to Ward 6 in your view?
Well, for Ward 6, to me, number one to me is safety and security of our citizens, which means we need a robust and well-funded fire department, a funded police department, but also for our city employees, because if we can't keep our citizens safe, we really can't do anything else. I think that our fire department and police department have the equipment that they need, but my concern is we're in the middle. I keep hearing about a salary study, but we need to get the results of that, because we have vacancies that aren't necessarily getting filled. And maybe that has to do with our wage and benefits. So that's something to take a look at, that we need to remain competitive, not just to recruit new people to work for the city, but also to retain them, as a matter of fact. And then the second thing for me is, over the next couple of years, I think the budget is going to be of concern. I do not want to raise taxes. Nobody likes higher taxes. But with inflation going up the way it is, and then my concern about wages and keeping them competitive, we're going to have to absolutely focus on our budget in order to keep it under control. We got to find creative ways to spend money. We have been doing grants with our parks, with some of our infrastructure. FEMA is reimbursing us with a lot of the things that we're doing for disaster recovery and resilience. Those are the types of things that we need, so that we don't need to raise taxes. And then the third thing for Ward 6, and everyone that I've talked to, is I get back to the role of the public servant. They want somebody at City Hall to serve them, to answer the phone calls, to answer their emails, and be available 24/7 to listen to their concerns and address them, whether it be electric, water, sewer, drainage, or whether it be personnel or planning, zoning issues, those types of things up at City Hall. So those are the 3 things that I see as the focus of Ward 6, and for the city of New Bern, for that matter.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Oakley. What are the top 3 issues of importance to Ward 6 in your view?
Well, I tell you, Bob and I share, of course, similar thoughts, about the budget. Obviously, right now, the city is, fiscally healthy, but I think we're definitely going to have to keep a handle on the spending. For me personally, as I've gone out and talked to folks, obviously, living in New Bern, we know water and drainage and infrastructure are always an issue in the city. Even in Ward 6, which, is obviously a lot newer than some of the other wards that are closer to downtown. But, basically, we're going to have to come up with a strategic plan. And that's one thing that our city right now is currently lacking. And that strategic plan is basically a living document that's going to help guide, not only the Board of Aldermen and the new mayor, but also, our department heads as to, which way we go going forward with the city. And it being a living document, as the city grows, that document can grow as well. I think that will prevent a lot of, trying to lead, no knee-jerk reactions, trying to be proactive versus reactive. So infrastructure is always a big one, right? We know that. Infrastructure, the city government being transparent. I do get, and I'm sure Bob gets a lot of those comments as well when he's out talking to folks. The people in Ward 6, they just want to know what's going on. They want to be told, they want to be informed. And I think, I definitely think we could do a better job of that. I know right now, even in my own example, sometimes it's hard to kind of navigate and find out information about the city. So I think by us, doing a better job of getting the word out and keeping the constituents, and not just Ward 6, but people, throughout the city better informed. I think that builds a trust between the constituents and the city government. The last thing I will say is this: the, people just, again, people's concerns and opinions want to be heard. They want their stuff addressed. And a lot of the parts of the Ward 6 that I've talked to, people know how good the city employees are, but a lot of times sometimes there's no oversight. So the city employees don't know what they don't know. They don't know to fix it if they don't know it's broken. So I think, building a better communication bridge between, the elected government officials and, of course, the wonderful people that we have in these director spots. I think we can really build a good team to address a lot of the issues.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Oakley. Our wards are pretty geographically large, all of them, as is Ward 6.
Mm-hmm.
How do you intend, and many distinct neighborhoods comprise Ward 6, how do you intend to represent the diverse needs of Ward 6 equitably?
Well, I think that's a challenge for any part of the city, especially in Ward 6, because it is very spread out. And like you said, a lot of these neighborhoods are very diverse. So I think as an elected official, the best thing to do is to carve out time to go talk to those individual communities or neighborhoods on a regular basis. That way you get the true intent of what their concerns are, because each neighborhood is vastly different in some regards. I mean, as far as what the issues are, I mean, you cannot compare Greenbrier to, say, my neighborhood in Bell Oaks. I mean, they're a lot different. It's a lot different demographics. So I think as a city official, it's imperative to get out and actually take time to do regular meetings. And I won't say a meet and greet, but regular meetings with these neighborhoods. I know, Kings Road does a very, very good neighborhood watch program, which is basically where they pass a lot of their information on. I know Greenbrier has, many different HOA boards, because it's such a spread out neighborhood. We do a very good job in Bell Oaks, talking about neighborhood issues with our board. I'm sure Cypress Shores does the same thing. So I think it's imperative to really get with those governing boards, whatever they may be in those neighborhoods, and just make yourself available and, write stuff down. I mean, have question and answer periods, answer the mail when somebody asks you a question. I think that way, people really feel like they are truly being represented in their neighborhood, and their neighbors are being truly represented when you're able to spend, actual FaceTime, or butts in seats, so to speak, when you're talking to people. That speaks volumes about the individuals.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Brinson. How do you intend to represent the diverse needs of Ward 6 equitably?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like Travis was saying, you've got to get out into the neighborhoods. Part of my campaigning, I knocked on 2,069 doors that I could get to actually talk to people. I tried to host a meet and greet in every single neighborhood. And just like Travis said, some of these neighborhoods are very well organized and have boards or have community watch or something that you can talk to, and some of them do not. One of the things that I am proposing to is to have a quarterly town hall in the different neighborhoods as I go through, because just like Travis said, people want to be heard. And they want to find out information. They don't want to be told, well, you can go here, or you can go there, or you can go to this meeting to find it all out. They want a conversation. And so that's what I am willing to do is have that conversation, be available, set aside the time to go meet people in their neighborhood or at their home, even if they want to host something, and have them be heard. You know, we talked about transparency a little bit earlier. To me, we've got to get out the issues that we think we're going to address earlier. Like, I take the difference between the Union Point Park issue and this social districting issue that's coming up. Those have taken two very different tacks, whereas Union Point Park showed up 3 days before the meeting. Social districting actually is being discussed, you know, for the past month or so, and now has been tabled. I'd like to have those issues and take them to my communities and say, hey, what do you think? Let's discuss it, because I want to actually make an informed decision on the board, informed by my constituents, versus me guessing what I think they want. You know, so to me, that is both addressing diversity and, you know, equity that you're talking about, but also the transparency part. And that is the job of the alderman, the way I see it. It's a proactive conversation. I'm not waiting for people to come to me to let them express their opinion. I'm reaching out and trying to create a town hall or a meet and greet or an area or a, you know, community watch meeting or HOA board in order to gather their opinion.
I think we have time. Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Brinson. You have 3 minutes. 6 aldermen and the mayor comprise the board of aldermen in our city. Do you believe your job as an alderman is to fight only for your ward, or to be a member of a board that makes policy for the entire city of New Bern? Please explain.
Well, the answer is yes. I kind of addressed this earlier. I mean, you're elected as the representative for Ward 6. And so as such, you represent the views of Ward 6. Ideally, those views of Ward 6 are also in the best interests of the city of New Bern. I mean, to give you an example, you know, downtown has its very nice charm, and some people think that the board overly looks at what's going on downtown. But I would tell you the business and the commerce and the things that go on downtown are what drives people to want to live in New Bern. They don't necessarily live downtown, but it also keeps the property values up. And so sometimes you're making decisions in the best interest of New Bern. And so again, it comes back to the conversation for me with the residents of and citizens of Ward 6 to gain what their opinion is, and then also to understand, hey, is this in the best interest of the city of New Bern? And if they're both aligned, then that's great. If there's a conflict, then that's where me as the representative, I've got to decide between those two, or convince my constituents that, hey, this is in the best interest of New Bern. I'm going to vote in your best interest because that's why you elected me. And somehow with my citizens, reconcile the difference and have that discussion. But again, it goes back to, you've got to have discussions with your constituents in order to discern what's in the best interest of your ward, what's in the best interest of the city. And again, hopefully those two are very much aligned.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Oakley. 6 aldermen and the mayor comprise the board of aldermen. Do you believe your job as an alderman is to fight only for your ward, or to be a member of a board that makes policy for the entire city of New Bern?
So, you know, as I've been out walking and talking to people, the recurring theme is the fact that a lot of people, especially folks that have lived here for a while, acknowledge the fact that some, and I won't say which ones, but some folks that are on the current board really tend to focus on just their people, their either their neighborhoods or their neighbors, or a very small group within their, you know, their immediate community. So, of course, you're an elected representative of Ward 6, right? So of course you're going to take your concerns of your constituents to heart, and you're going to prioritize those. But what I have found is that if you can get a cooperating board of aldermen and a mayor to work hand in hand to fix outlying issues throughout the whole city, that benefits every person, not just the people of Ward 6. And, an example of that would be, like, let's say, we all know that historically we've had a lot of drainage issues in Ward 2. It takes 4 members of that board to approve anything. So in order to do anything, whether it's Ward 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're going to need 4 members of the board. So the quickest way to remedy that for all the wards is to establish from day one, when that new board gets sworn in and that new mayor gets sworn in, establish a good cooperating board who will not only look out for their constituents, but also look out for all of the people of New Bern, because we are better together as a city. And I think a lot of times that gets overlooked, and people get very hyper focused on just their immediate issues. As an elected official, yeah, you're an elected official of Ward 6 or whatever ward you're running for, or the mayor. But at the end of the day, you've got to look out for all of the people, because everybody is looking for leadership. They are looking for someone to help them with their issues. And the best way to do that is to establish a good working relationship early on, day one, with the new board and the new mayor. And everybody is on the same sheet of music, as far as we know. It takes 4 people to make a decision or to make a policy. And I think that's the best way, because we are better together as a city.
Thank you for your response. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Oakley. And both of you have touched on this a bit, but let's just be clear. The next question: many citizens throughout the city see a disproportionate allocation of city resources and advocacy for the downtown central business district. Is that an accurate perception in your mind?
Well, I will tell you, I think, a lot of people say, well, perception is reality. I don't necessarily feel that that's 100% accurate. What I mean by that is, and Bob kind of alluded to it a couple minutes ago, people come to New Bern because of downtown, of Ward 1, right? The downtown area. That is what the main draw is for tourism. That is the main draw really for what, makes people want to, move here and retire here and work here. So I would say, a lot of times when you're talking to folks, you really have to explain to them that there's a reason why they feel that way. But the ripple effect from having a successful, campaign and trying to draw tourism here, the ripple effect is felt throughout the wards. I mean, money is generated, revenue streams are generated, which can be dispersed throughout the other wards in the city. In Ward 6, obviously we have a lot of the commercial stuff on the 17 corridor. But yeah, I mean, the ripple effects are felt throughout the city, from Ward 1 and of course Ward 6. So, but people need to understand that a lot of times that money that we get for infrastructure projects for the other wards is generated from action and interaction through Ward 1 and Ward 6. Doesn't mean they're more important than the other wards or the other constituents that live in different parts of the city. But yeah, those are the way the city of New Bern is set up. It's a kind of a unique situation where, you have one area that really generates a lot of revenue streams. And then of course you have Ward 6, and we've got a lot of the commercial, businesses. So yeah, I mean, I think people need to probably, if they just get a better understanding and have their city officials kind of explain the unique relationship between the other wards and specifically Ward 1, I think a lot of people, when they're explained that, they get it, they understand it. They may not like it per se, but it, I think it's a necessary, to help provide some of the infrastructure things that need to go on in the other wards.
Thank you for your response. Same question to Mr. Brinson. Many citizens throughout the city see a disproportionate allocation of city resources and advocacy for the downtown central business district. Is that perception accurate?
I don't necessarily agree with that perception. What some folks don't understand either is the downtown area has its own tax district as well. They pay additional taxes being downtown, and so there's additional money that they have available to deal with some of the infrastructure things downtown, and they also have now with that money they take care of other things, but there's also more groups that are focused on downtown as well, and so that's probably where that perception comes from. You have Swiss Bear, you have the tourism development authority like Travis alluded to, and then you have the Chamber of Commerce. They're sometimes almost exclusively focused on downtown, not always, but sometimes, and so the attention is downtown, but that's not unfounded, because just like Travis said, that's one of our economic drivers. But one of the things I would like to do is I would like to get a West New Bern group put together, like a 501c3, similar to Swiss Bear, in order to start looking at issues that we have in other parts of the city. And that would not just include Ward 6, that would include parts of Wards 2 and 4, just like Travis talked about. Highway 17 and MLK is one of our commercial corridors. Many of our doctor's offices and everything are in Ward 6, and you've got Glen Burnie. So, if you can get one of these groups to start focusing in a public-private partnership, with the city, then we can start looking at some of those other issues that are going on in other parts of the city. And that wouldn't be just exclusive to West New Bern. The idea is we could have a North New Bern one as well, going up Noose Boulevard and covering parts of Duffy Field out that way, and up Highway 55. But the issue to me is right now there's a lot of energy and a lot of time and effort spent on downtown, not unreasonably so, but I'd like to see some additional time and effort spent in other parts of the city as well.
Thank you. And this is almost a follow-up, and we'll start with you, Mr. Brinson. Ward 6 is growing in leaps and bounds. So what does good growth look like to you in Ward 6? And whose job is it to manage good growth in the city?
Well, that's a great question. And to me, the city of New Bern absolutely has to have a balance between the small town charm that we have in our historic districts and maintain the reason why people love the city of New Bern and come to the city of New Bern, not just to tour here, but to live here. And so, the good growth, it attributes to affordable housing. It keeps the prices low. It increases our tax base, which gives us more money to do good services. But it gets back to exactly what Travis mentioned at the very beginning. Our city needs a strategic vision on where it wants to go and where it wants to grow and where it needs to grow in order to maintain that balance. And so to me, growing both to the south down the 70 corridor and then growing up the 17 corridor is the directions that we have. And then if we have that strategic vision along with our priorities, and those are given to, as Travis knows, the Planning and Zoning Board, then we can balance the growth that's going on in the city without losing our hometown charm. And then that way we can still give the services to the city of New Bern citizens that they want and they desire. But again, it goes back to that strategic vision at the very beginning that this next board is going to have to get together and do, and then establish priorities underneath that. And if you follow that long-term plan, then it's not haphazard. It's actually planned and you know where you're going.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Oakley. Ward 6 is growing in leaps and bounds. What does good growth look like to you in Ward 6? And the follow-up, whose job is it to manage good growth in a city?
Sure. So I like to say good growth, and then I like to say growing at an appropriate rate, especially for the city of New Bern. I mean, healthy cities grow. We know that, and that's what we want. But at the same time, I think a lot of people's concerns are that if we grow too quickly, then we don't keep our New Bern luster, which is what draws people here to begin with. So I would say. Obviously, Bob talked about growth up to 17 corridor. For me, I'm really excited as someone representing Ward 6 because I really feel that 17 corridor, now that the bypass has been completed from Jacksonville, I think the 17 corridor offers, especially the folks in Ward 6 and the city overall, I think there's a lot of opportunity to bring some real growth in there. The 17 corridor right now is already kind of zoned. It's zoned part of it is commercial, part of it is residential, and then part of it still has an agricultural coating to it. So it's kind of set up and just sitting there ready to go. As far as growth, here's the thing. New Bern is unique the way it's set up. So I don't see us, drawing in a major well-known, world-renowned company like a Bosch on the 17. But what I do see is as a reality is to bring in a lot of micro manufacturing, and basically those are smaller companies that employ anywhere from 10 to maybe 100 people. They're looking for a very cool, unique place to call home, and I think New Bern is a good draw for those type of companies because not only will they hire some local folks that may be already here, but they're looking for an opportunity to be part of a cool, a cool place to call their corporate headquarters. A lot of time in branding and issues like that with a company, people look at where they started. I know a lot of those smaller, companies. Me growing up on the West Coast, I will reach out to my beach roots a little bit. I look at the Santa Cruz, skateboard company. Well, Santa Cruz was started in Santa Cruz, California, and so that's type of micro manufacturing I'm talking about, where you link that company, and once they call New Bern home, then they become part of New Bern's fabric, right? And they're proud to be here in New Bern, just as proud as we are, and we're proud to have those type of companies. So. As far as the 70 corridor, of course, West New Bern, Bob and I both know that's going to be a massive, development out there. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition as well. It's been a long time coming. But again, it does go back to, sticking with a strategic plan, aligning the goals, both short-term and long-term, and then sticking to that, because I think if we have that, it's a lot easier to plan, and it's a lot easier to figure out who we want to try to invite here to invest in our city as we go forward.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Mr. Oakley. If a citizen calls you to complain about city services, how will you handle the call? And whose job is it to manage city employees?
All right, that's a great question, because I get that one quite a bit, just in my dealings, being the HOA president over here. So basically, when someone calls to complain, I think, as an elected official, you should obviously try to respond, try to gather all the information, of course. And if it need be, you go over there and have them show you. If it's let's say a drainage issue, I like to use that one because we all know there's drainage issues throughout New Bern. But really go over there, and that way you can get a feel for it. And what I've tried to do already is I've tried to call the city employees that I know manage some of those issues, and I call them up and I say, hey, can we go out and look at, such and such's house, or, the back drainage area of this neighborhood? Can we go out and just look at it? And let me get your opinion. As an elected official, it's important to remember that we don't guide the bus as far as what those city employees do. They have a public works director, and we have a city manager. So I think it's important that we work hand in hand with those people, but we don't handcuff them, and we don't try to do unnecessary influence to get, one area taken care of over the other. We as a city, when we elect these people and pay them good amounts of money, we should allow them to do their expertise. I've always said, you don't have to be the smartest guy at the table, but when you surround yourself with very, very smart people, let them do what they need to do. So yeah, I think you address somebody's issue, you go out there, you find out what it is, you get a hold of what department that is, and say, hey, look, one of my constituents called, here's the issue. I went and looked at it. I'm not an expert on it, but could you come out and at least meet me and talk to him and see what we can do? That seems to work fabulously when we do it. Again, you're not going to satisfy everybody, but the times that I've done it, it's worked well. And then they feel like, okay, again, my needs are being addressed, and they were quick to respond. And then that way it builds that trust within the city employees as well, because we've got some phenomenal people who work for the city who make magic happen every day. Again, I like to try and give a shout out to those guys when I can. You got 6 people, for example, that work for stormwater for the whole city. 6. That's a lot of work for 6 individuals. So, but they do a phenomenal job. So I think that's the easiest way to address that.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Brinson. If a citizen calls you to complain about a city service, how will you handle the call? And following up on that question, whose job is it to manage the city employees?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Travis. I mean, I'm going to take the call. I'm going to take the complaint. And, my last 6 years in the Army, I was part of the Inspector General Corps, and that's what we did on a daily basis. And so what you end up doing is exactly what Travis said. You know who the city employees are. You go to their bosses, present them with that problem, go out to the constituent if you need to see those things. And more often than not, just like Travis said earlier, sometimes the city employees just don't know that there's a problem out there. And so it's informing them, letting them know what's going on, and then getting out of the way and letting them do their job, because just like Travis said, the board is a governing board. It's not the bosses, if you will. And so sometimes you just got to get out of the way and let them do their job after you've shown them that there are some issues. But the follow-on is, you've got to go back to that constituent and say, hey, was this resolved to your satisfaction? Do you still have a problem? Did we resolve it? And then one of the things I would like to do also as an alderman is, when I start getting these issues, is there any trends? Are we having multiple problems across the city, or even just across the ward in maybe one particular department? So you're looking for systemic issues and systemic problems as a leader. And so for many of those constituent calls that I'm going to end up getting, I'm going to CC, emails or all of the aldermen to say, hey, are you guys having this same problem, so that we can address it as a board? So you take the micro problem of one individual that's having and resolve it, but you make sure that in the broader context of this issues that the city are having, is there a broader problem that the board actually needs to address, or maybe a department head needs to address? So it doesn't just stop with that one constituent. You take a look at the whole picture.
Thank you. And we'll start with you again, Mr. Brinson. The next question. The state of North Carolina municipal government was designed to have a strong city manager system with the city manager running the city. The past two city managers were offered jobs by the board without the Board of Aldermen advertising nationally or even on a statewide basis. Those negotiations took place in-house and then were voted behind closed doors and then voted on in open session by the Board of Aldermen. Many citizens in our town have viewed these appointments over a decade of our city managers here as lacking transparency and a process which failed to bring in the best candidates across the nation to be considered for those top positions in managing our city. Do you agree with that or disagree with the perception of those people?
Well, honestly, since I'm not an incumbent, I kind of have an outside seat, just like all of our citizens, as to what went on. So I'm not real sure about why they chose one process over another. My understanding was, for these top two positions, for city manager and for finance director, they normally take applications and give it to a board made up of citizens who ultimately make a recommendation to the board who makes the decision. I kind of agree with that process, because to me that gives some citizens a chance to take a look at all the resumes and rank order them and make a recommendation to the board. So I would advocate that in the future, but I can't tell you why they hired who they did, why they did now. But one of the other things that I do want to address is, we talked about diversity of hiring a couple of months back in one of the meetings. We do a great job advertising on these different boards in order to try and get diverse and national level applicants. But to me, I've heard ascribed to Einstein, insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I would like to see, and am willing to do as an alderman, going to some of these universities, these local universities, job fairs. Let's just go to North Carolina Central. Let's go to A&T. Let's go to East Carolina. Let's go to Elizabeth City and UNC Pembroke and Wilmington and their job fairs and actually advertise New Bern as an employer. And while we may not get that year's seniors, they'll actually get accustomed to seeing us as sophomores and juniors, and maybe we can get a more diverse workforce. So just trying different things in order to get more applicants to apply, to have, so that we can choose from more and get the best.
Thank you for your response. Same question to Mr. Oakley. The state of North Carolina municipal government was designed to have a strong city manager system with the city manager running the city. The past two city managers were offered jobs by the Board of Aldermen without advertising nationally or even statewide. Negotiations took place, salary packages put together, and then voted by the board in open session. Many citizens in our town have viewed these appointments as lacking transparency and a process which failed to bring in possibly the best candidates across the nation to be considered for these top positions. Do you agree or disagree with this?
So again, I wasn't, just like Bob, I wasn't privy to how they did that, came up with that decision. I will tell you that in case of the public works director, that process was followed by the letter of the law. As a matter of fact, they had gotten down to 3 candidates that they were choosing from, and then in like the 11th hour mark, they decided, hey, you know what, we think we can throw out a bigger net out there. Let's see. So they actually withdrew a couple, for those last 3 candidates they had for the public works director position. They actually went out and did the very same thing that you're asking me about. So again, I'm like Bob, I wasn't privy to how the decision was made to hire the city manager or the previous city manager. I wasn't privy to that, but I will tell you that I think as an elected board and as a city, I think we're learning as we go that there are other opportunities, to draw a bigger, draw from a bigger pool of candidates. And I like the idea of going to those job fairs. I like the idea of casting a wider net. Here's the other problem that a lot of people kind of forget. A lot of the jobs, it's hard to find. It's hard to get people that want to take these jobs, and these are obviously the city manager job and the assistant city manager job and the public works director and the finance director. Those are well-paid positions, but a lot of people don't realize too that there's not 100 people knocking down the door to fill a lot of those spots. And I think a couple reasons cause that to happen. One, right now there are bigger cities that, and Bob kind of touched on a little bit, bigger cities they were able to pay more money. That's one thing. And then two, you have like a feeder system where, you have the triangle up there in Raleigh, and you've got NC State, you've got Chapel Hill. So I think a lot of times those folks are pulled by the bigger cities because they can offer more right out of the chute, for a college degree, master's or a PhD, they can offer big money. So I think a lot of times we have to realize we're a smaller footprint, and we have to take who we can take at the time and make the best decision from that pool.
Thank you. Appreciate your responses. We're going to wrap up with our last question. Each of you will have 4 minutes for closing remarks. It's now your time to let the citizens of New Bern, Ward 6 specifically, let them know why you should be the next alderman for the 6th Ward. And we'll start with Mr. Oakley.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I just want to say to the citizens of Ward 6, I've been out there just like Bob has, knocking on doors and shaking hands and doing those things. But I think, for those of you that have talked to me and those of you that may have not talked to me already, I'm doing this because I want to. You don't need to pay me for the alderman's position. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to pad my resume. This is my home. I have literally brought my whole family here, other than my 2 sisters who are still on the West Coast. This is my home. I care about my neighbors. I care about the city. I think this is an exciting time for our city right now because we do have some new hires. We're going to have a brand new board and a brand new mayor. And so this is an exciting time. I want to get out and represent all of the people in Ward 6. And I want to fix stuff. I don't want to table issues. Listen, in the Marine Corps, we're very, very good at executing plans. You gather the data, you put the people at the table that need to be there, you get the opinions, and then you come up with a plan, and then you execute the plan. And if that plan changes based on new information that comes in, then you make changes, but you still execute the plan. I think we can get a lot of things done in the city of New Bern that have needed to be done, not just in Ward 6, but throughout the city. And I think, in talking to people, they're genuinely excited. And a lot of people didn't know, a lot of the issues that were going on until we got in front of them and really started talking to them. So I think there's a lot of energy right now in New Bern. Here's the other thing too. Cities, again, they grow. Healthy cities grow. New Bern is getting younger, and it's a changing dynamic here. And so I think there's a level of enthusiasm, a level of, hey, what is in store for the city? I want to help guide those decisions. I want to make everybody feel like this is their home, like Bob and I feel about New Bern. So that's the most important thing for me. And I just want to get stuff done, and hopefully I can count on your vote. Early voting started yesterday, so come on down. You'll probably see Bob and I both down there. So I'm just excited for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to serving. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Brinson, you have 4 minutes to let the citizens of New Bern, specifically the citizens of Ward 6, know why they should vote for you to be their alderman.
Yes. Well, again, Bob Brenson running for Ward 6 alderman. I really have a heart of service. I absolutely love the city of New Bern. Like I said, I'm from here. I have deep roots here, being a Brinson, and have ultimately the best interest of the city of New Bern in mind. Gary Chapman wrote a book called the 5 Love Languages, and I've found out that my love language is acts of service. And so really, I want to do things for the citizens of New Bern. I want to be your public servant. I want to work for you and keep New Bern a great place to live, work, and play. One of the things also that Travis alluded to was bringing in businesses. I'd like to do that as well. I want to partner with the county, who's doing a great job bringing those businesses into the 70 corridor. But the thing I want to focus on is we've got to get jobs here in order to keep our kids and grandkids here. We have been told so much and have shown that it's a great place to raise your kids. But the issue is when they're graduating high school, just like me, unless you wanted to be a local professional, you had to leave to go get a job to actually support your family. So I want someone like myself as a board member or one of the city employees waking up every morning trying to bring business and industry not just to the city of New Bern, but to the county, because those people ultimately will live in the city of New Bern as a bedroom community. The other thing I would tell you, is for me experience. I've been in the Army, managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I think it's going to be a challenging time because Travis alluded to it. Some of the decisions have been put off by this current board because they thought that they were going to have an election. They kept putting it off to the next board, but now inflation is kind of eating our lunch on some of those decisions that are now making. And we're being handcuffed, the next board is, with some of the debt that we're going to have to incur. And so you've got to be able to do more with less, which is exactly what Travis knows as a military veteran we're being told to do. So I will tell you that Travis and I are very similar in a lot of our outlooks. You can't go wrong with either one of us, to be honest. But I would tell you, I think I'm a good guy for the job. I'm available 24/7 and would love to serve you as your next alderman.
Thank you. In conclusion, I'd like to thank New Bern Now managing editor and owner Wendy Card for providing this opportunity to the citizens of New Bern. The more citizens are informed, the better our democracy is. And again, our deepest thanks to both of you for running to represent citizens in our beautiful city. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Kathy, Bob, Travis. Y'all have a great day and have a great weekend.
You guys all have a great weekend. Bob, I'll see you down there on the sidewalk.
All right.
Get out and vote.
All right. Yes, absolutely. Everybody get out and vote.
Please
all right. You take care, you all.
All right. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a great day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.